vibe. She wanna vibe.
Okay.
How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the High Frequency Podcast. My name is Marlon Solerio.
And I'm Shanae, and we are here to talk about all things personal development, growth, mindset, hoping that you guys will find as much value from that as we do. And today, we've got an awesome guest with us, Serge.
Woo! Did you want to introduce yourself to all our listeners?
Yeah, for sure. My name is Serge, and I've been just like working with Marlon for a few years at Les Mills Bruma, and as a coach and as a colleague, and in Shanae as well, working alongside at Les Mills and also training together.
Yeah.
So it's been really good to know you guys and like really connect with you guys. So it's good to sit down and have a chat. Yeah. A little bit about myself. At the moment, this current moment, I'm doing Les Mills personal training manager position, personal training, and also doing some nutrition stuff as well. And so that's a bit about myself as such in a short.
I think people will find most benefit in hearing Serge's entire story, because I think for when I first met you through Les Mills, I only knew like Serge the PT, and I think I just assumed that you'd always been into health and fitness and this crazy gymnastics mind freak Jedi, and just assumed that was Serge. And it wasn't until one day, I think in one of my programs you'd given me, and there was an exercise and that I'd asked you about, and you were like, oh yeah, here's the YouTube link of you doing the exercise. And then I'd sort of went through your YouTube channel, and then that's when I came across your one of your really early YouTube videos of you sort of explaining your how you got to where you were. And I was just like, fuck, I didn't know this about Serge. So I was like mind blown. So
take us through a time machine, man. Take us to the very start.
Who is Serge? Where did Serge come from? What day were you born? Take it right back.
So like originally I'm from Russia, so we immigrated with my family in 2004. So I guess we came from a not very small town, but it's average in size. We've got 600,000 people living there. It's called Irkutsk, and it's right on that southern part of Siberia. And we just decided to move, or my dad decided to move. So we used to live in Germany in 1990s, and my dad his background is military, Air Force, and he got to experience a better life. And when the Berlin Wall happened, we had to go back. So my dad bought this bright red Mercedes, brand new, and we drove all the way from Leipzig, Eastern Germany, to Siberia. It took us 6 days non-stop. My dad just drove. And when I heard the story, I was like, how did you even sleep? He's like, we just kept going. And my dad just drove us all the way. And he sold the Mercedes, and we bought 2 apartments in a holiday house for that money, because it was like brand new and it was like a rare car. So for me, like it was like a memory, me with my brother like in the back seat just driving, just like real vague memory. And I guess my dad got to experience the better life, and he decided to do that again. And he came to Auckland in the year 2000, straight after the millennium. So and he stayed in Auckland for 2 years and decided to do the move. He brought us over, and straight away when we landed, we went to Hawke's Bay, and we drove again to Hawke's Bay, and that's where all the New Zealand life sort of began for us. And it was like just from scratch. We couldn't even speak English and comprehend where we were, and when we were flying, we had this American dream, but the reality was completely different. So it was super hard to begin with, because you couldn't communicate with people, and it was just like you felt like you were born again, but you just had to adapt to the culture and everything else that was going on, and learn the language, and engage with the new culture, like Maori culture and Kiwi culture. So it was super hard. And from there, I went to Tamatea High School, and that school was pretty interesting because it used to be one of the top schools in Napier, and then when
you
Nikki Lord was actually at Tamati High School, and she was in the very top, one of those years where it started to go downhill from there.
Yeah.
So and then 2 years in Tamati High School, started to find myself a little bit, then communicate better with people, and then I moved to Taradale High School, learn new things, start playing football, get engaged with sports and playing table tennis and all of that sort of stuff. But it was just adapting to the new culture was the hardest part. And
so how old were you when you first moved to Auckland?
So my brother first actually moved, so he's 2 years older than me, so he moved to Auckland first, and so I was still in Napier, and I was 2009 I made the move, so I would have been 19.
Okay, yeah.
So that was my first year of going to uni.
Yeah. But when you guys first moved to New Zealand, you were so sort of late.
I was 14. 14,
right?
yeah. 14. That's like high school. Yeah.
How old are you now?
Yeah. 30. Yeah.
Alright.
Yeah. So been pretty much like 16 years here and 14 years in Russia.
Yeah.
So I'm more Kiwi now.
Yeah. You're local, maybe just.
Yeah.
Oh.
Sweet. So what did you start getting up to once you moved here to Auckland?
Well, this was so when I was in Russia, I used to play ice hockey, taekwondo, table tennis, football in summer, ice hockey in winter. We were like, running around, playing sports. It was just like a typical Russian upbringing. Like, we didn't have phones, so we were always active. We were always running around from neighborhood to neighborhood. And winter was quite interesting as well because it's like super cold in my town. So we would do anything winter sports wise, like skiing and all that stuff. And then when you move here, you're completely immersed in a different culture, so you have to like try new things, and there's not much things going on as well in terms of the sports that I used to do, so I had to find different sports and different people. So like I learned how to do how to play touch or rugby, so it was like super new for me. And then after the high school, when I went to university, it was the time where I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to be a professional footballer because that's what I wanted to do all my life. And it's all about rugby in New Zealand, so I kind of felt like I failed myself, but it was also there's not much going on in terms of soccer. So I decided to enroll into university and just do business, like what everyone else does. and then from there I got myself a first job at one of the bars at one of the malls, and it was my first bartending job. I started drinking, started going out a lot. It was super fun. I was going to university first year, and we were going to the pub crawls and all of that stuff, so it was super fun first year. And then I got a friend who actually got another bartending job in another bar, and he introduced me to the bar manager. And he said, why don't you do the move to a new bar and you can learn new things and cocktail making and all that stuff. And when I do certain things, I just want to do it to a full extent. So I was like, this kind of interests me. And it's fun as well. Yeah. So, and that bar was Lennon Bar on Viaduct. And we had a real cool bar manager. He's South African guy. And he was so passionate about Russians. I don't know why. But he started hiring all the Russians into Lennon Bar because it's like, it's a Russian bar. Why don't we have, Russian bartenders? Yeah. But little did he knew, Russians in one place could be dangerous. So we had fun, and most of all, and that's where all the intense drinking started. Drinking heavily, going out until till the sunrise, 5 a.m. You're having your beer, and then you realize there's a guy running on the street going for a jog, and then you're like, oh shit, it's time to go home. Wow. And most of the time you don't even realize, but you also having drinks on the job sometimes, and you have vodka Red Bulls during the night, and you start to catch yourself drinking 6 vodka Red Bulls. And little you're just starting going out, all your friends are bartenders, and you start to see yourself, taking drugs, drinking more heavily. So that's when I started to realize that it's not me,
you're a product of your environment.
Product of your environment, but also because I wanted to fit in. I want to be cool, whatever you want to call it. And so I drank more and to be more funnier or whatever. And so I got into trouble. I got my first drink driving, and then willful damage, and then second drink driving, which was just one thing after another. And all I thought it was just bad circumstances, or it was just like unlucky, being unlucky, bad luck. And I was like,
And was that what people around you were saying as well? Were they just like, oh man, you're just so unlucky with that sort of stuff? Or were there people that were sort of being like, oh dude, you need to sort of check yourself?
Yeah, some people were saying oh man, just don't drive. Or some people were just like, yeah, you're unlucky, I did stupid shit as well and I never got caught. So it's just, for me it was just like, oh yeah, it's just being unlucky. And I just didn't get caught. And some people didn't get caught, I get unlucky here in this circumstance. So for me it was just, okay, let's move on. It's a bad little obstacle, let's move on and let's continue with this journey and keep continue with the drinking part because it's fun. That's what's sold to us on a daily basis, because it's like, you gotta be drinking in the party, or you gotta be engaging with everyone with having a drink in your hand. So for me it was never an enticing thing to do, because it was like, I didn't want to drink. I want to be a professional footballer, because I knew that's going to slow down my progress. But having been in that environment and being a bartender, and it's like a saying, you never trust a skinny baker. It's like if you're a bartender, you don't drink, there's something wrong with you. You gotta mix that cocktails, you gotta try, and then you gotta hang out with the same people. So that was, for me, it was like, series after, one drink driving, second drink driving, and the very final one was the assault charge, which I got discharged from, luckily, because I could have been deported from the country, basically.
How old were you in that?
So I was 22. It was 2012 when I hit the rock bottom, basically. And the one thing that saved me for sure was just going to the gym. So I was going to Lees Mills, Auckland City, and just training, taking my mind off it, and that was the most difficult year that I've experienced in my life. And
were you gymming? Were you active at the gym throughout uni and throughout bartending, or was it more towards that?
Yeah, I was still active. So I was training. I was actually bodybuilding back then. Because that was super popular. 2009, the Greg Plitt era.
That's what got me into it.
Aesthetics, all of that stuff. And
this is just so hard to believe.
Taking creatine and all of that stuff, 6 egg yolks, raw and smoothie. Raw egg whites, blended in, drink it. So that was me back in 2009.
Wow.
But the drinking and the training was still kind of tied in together, the most of all, I still continue to be active, because that's who I truly was, and that's what kept me going.
And were your family about through that period, or have much influence on what you were getting up to? Or
no, they lived in Hawke's Bay, so they were kind of isolated a little bit from me, but in the same sense, I knew what alcohol was doing to me, but although I was kind of ignorant, because my granddad, my mother's side, he was an alcoholic, so he used to smoke cigarettes without filter, 2 packets a day, drinking a lot, and he, unluckily for him, he had gangrene. So he lost both of his legs. So he lost one leg, and then they needed to amputate his second leg. And I saw what he had to go through. So I was like, oh man, this is a traumatic experience, not only for my mom, but also for me, because I was like, man, this is not what you should be doing. It was sitting in the back of my head, but at the same time, I was like, I'm experiencing this. Let's have fun. Because that's what everyone was doing back in the days. Yeah.
So how did you kind of, I guess, remove yourself from that environment or change your ways?
Yeah, how did you get to where you are now?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So now
That's the golden nugget. That's what
now
we want to know.
we've hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
Now,
How did
you know,
dig
what's the next
yourself
chapter?
out?
Because there's so many chapters and I've got so many questions.
Yeah.
But I want you to get to the
Mentally
end.
writing all the
Yeah, I'm like,
questions
just get to the end.
Yeah. And there's just so many things to cover because there's just little stories that kind of, you know, go into the next chapter, and there's so much to cover. But I think the most profound effect that I found was the CADS. So I needed to do the anger management course due to the assault charge, and then also I needed to do CADS, which is Community Alcohol and Drug Services, and you need to do a 12-week course alongside the anger management course. And the CADS was the most effective thing that ever done to me. I think at the time I didn't realize that, but then coming out of that 12-week, I was like, wow, this was impactful for me personally. And 4 months after the CADS, then I realized, like, okay, there's something needs to change, you know. But going back to CADS, there's this situation where I think it was like 4th weekend where I was sitting, and they basically like put you in a circle, and you know, he's like, hey, my name is Serge and I'm alcoholic. And at the time I was like, what am I doing here? Like I see people sitting there like this, like real high, and I'm like, whoa, like this is extreme, like I'm not like this.
Yeah.
And there's one guy walks in, like well groomed, black suit, really like you can see he shouldn't be there either. Sits down and basically goes around the circle, and his turn goes, and hi, my name is blah blah blah, and I'm an alcoholic and I'm an air traffic controller.
Oh.
I was like, what? And he basically shares the story of how, you know, they all live in that stressful environment, work shorter shifts, and then you go and get smashed, and then they come back to their role. I'm like, man, this is just an ordinary people just managing their stress in just this way, and they have a really big responsibility of landing planes, but you can't talk about it because what stays in the CADS, you know, what people say in the CADS, it stays at CADS. And then when I was still working at the bar, and when I was coming back, maybe after 6 weeks, the guy that was in that CADS, the air traffic controller, he was right in front of me. I was serving him beer, and I was like, we looked at each other, and I was like, oh yeah, hey man, and he's like, can I have a beer? And I was like, oh yeah, cool. So I served him a beer, and I was like, man, I'm the one who is like
enabling it.
That's wild. That is wild.
And he still continued to do that. So I was like, man, this is crazy. And going back to that after 4 months, where I was like, man, something needs to change. And when the CADS was like, you know, there's this psychological, mental, society impact of drinking alcohol and taking drugs, and how it impacts the community in general, and how much implications we have as a society by drinking alcohol, and you know, impact on the health services and everything else. So for me, it was just like, it was a no-brainer. I was like, I'm gonna give up drinking, and that's when I was like, man, like cold turkey overnight. Texted my friends, I'm not drinking anymore. They're like, oh, that's what you say all the time, you know, like after a big night out, you know, you'll do it next weekend. I was like, nah.
Monday yarns.
That's it. 2 weeks in, people were like, bro, come on, stop being a fool, you know, you gotta come out with us, and you know, months after months, and people realize like, oh, let's just not ask Serge anymore because he changed or whatever, or he's just being boring, you know. And then I realized like, man, this is so much better. I've got like more energy, I've got more cash in my wallet, I'm being more productive, I'm less depressed, I'm like having all these, you know, profound experiences with just giving up alcohol. And for me, it was just like, man, I don't need to drink. It's just, I've been there, I've done that, I've done all the drugs that I could possibly do. And for me, it was just like, it's time to do something with my life, because if I continue to do the same thing over and over, I'm just gonna be stepping over the same mistakes and just doing the same shit. It's just, the outcomes will be the same because you're just putting in the same habits into your life.
100%.
Yeah.
How long have you been sober for now?
Since 2013, so my last drink would have been
7 years ago.
May or June 2013. Yeah.
Congratulations, bro.
Yeah, thanks.
Congratulations.
Man.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, fuck, that is extremely admirable.
Yeah.
Especially in a culture like here.
Yeah.
Yeah. That event must have been so big. Or, that switch must have been so powerful for you to have been like... Because I've seen it many times too. I've said it many times too.
Had to get gout into it.
I did. It's exactly it. My event was I fucking got gout. High rich foods, but also it's just the beers. The beers, and the pain was so hearty that it scares the fuck out of me to have a beer.
Yeah, well, that's like I've learned just only recently that beer is high in estrogen. And it's like so bad for men to drink beer.
Yeah.
It's like
so I got like fuck for
you go through a 12 pack and like it's
too
like,
easy.
Yeah. It's like man, you just gotta ease up on the drink.
Yeah, definitely. And that was a turning point for me. If it was clearly the emotional and mental pain wasn't enough, but the physical pain, Jesus. I've got so many bloody things I want to go through. Did you want to start? You start.
Like when you were, because obviously, like you said, you were still working. So when you were going through the CADS program, were you still working at the bar as well?
Yeah, I was still working at the bar, still kind of going out a little bit, but not drinking as much. So just having a little bit of champagne every now and then, just because this was the cool thing, to buy champagne at the bar. You gotta have a bottle in your hand. You know?
And was it hard going through that? Like you said, as much as that process, you were feeling that it was changing you and making you think a bit more consciously about things. Was it still quite hard in that you were still within that environment? Like again, still going to work and still hanging out with those same people?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I was studying personal training course at that time, 2012, and for me, I was like, okay, I need to slowly wean myself out of that environment, start to slowly change, and then eventually like change completely, because I was like, I knew this isn't my journey anymore. I've done that. I've learned everything that I can possibly learn at the bartending industry. I worked alongside Master Chef Simon Gold. He was teaching me a lot of things about the 5% magic and doing the extra touch, because it's like in the 5-star fine dining experience, that's what they're all about, the extra touch and giving something extra to the person. I think I've learned some valuable lessons from bartending, and don't get me wrong, like people can have one drink and it's going to be completely fine for them. For me, for my personality is like, because I've got an addictive personality, so everything that I do, if I go for a swim, I don't go up to the knees. I go full in, dive in up to the head, snorkel. It's like the whole ride. You don't just get wet. Just put your feet in. It's not fun. You
for sure.
Go with your whole deep heart. This is what I like to do. And then I was like, well, if I'm not in it 100%, so what am I doing here? But I still continue to deliver, exceptional service. We've had these amazing machines, which only had the country only had 3 or 4 machines like that in the country, and they could literally, it looked like a chemistry lab machine, and you can do anything with it. You can make candy floss in it, you can make so much cool stuff, but it was just me learning how to make something cool out of like let's say cocktail, have raspberry caviar on top and just making these cool things. But then I was like, well, I'm still serving alcohol, so for me it was just pointless. So I was like, okay, well, time to move on and do something different. And I knew that sport is my passion, which I loved to do as a kid, and I needed to go back into that nature and reconnect with myself.
So that probably, did you feel that probably then made it easier to just knowing that you had that other avenue in PT and Les Mills? Was that helping, that you sort of were getting more enjoyment out of that and sort of remove you?
Yeah, I think I wasn't even thinking about personal training. I was thinking more of just getting my foot into the fitness industry, because I was just so new to it. I had no idea where to start. And Les Mills was, because I was going there from, my first membership was at Les Mills Britomart, and that was my home club. And then I discovered Auckland City. So like, oh man, this is so much bigger, and I can just go between the two. And I was like, well, I want to work on the floor. I can see myself, I can visualize myself working on the floor and helping people, spot people, give them advice. Because I was like, okay, get people into healthy habits, because I've been there and I know what it's like to hit rock bottom. So I just, when I finished my personal training course, I wanted to work in the fitness industry. So I found out there's a gym instructor role, and I was like, man, this is a perfect start.
Yeah.
This is a perfect start, because where I started as a bartender as washing glasses.
Yeah.
Call them the glassy.
Yeah.
And you just polish glasses at the back,
crazy.
and this is like, you know, the very first thing that you learn. So that's what I've done with the gym instructor role, and
now you're the PT manager of Auckland City. Like that's
That's wild. And just in like you know, in a practicality sense, just going back to when you said that, you know, there was a time where you were like, you know, this is no longer the environment that I wanted to be in. What steps did you practically take in order for you to get out of that environment? Was it like, did you just stop texting your mates, or did you tell them the hard truth? Did you have was there angry, irritated points? You know, how did you navigate through that?
So
Your exit.
I think the exit was super hard, because I couldn't let go of the notion that my friends have to change as well. Like, I didn't want to like consciously make that decision of choosing friends or changing them. Like, it's just happened as a process for me personally. For some people, they can stay friends, but for me, it was just like I no longer wanted to be associated with the drinking culture, and for me, it wasn't helping, because I knew that I could just relapse. So, and some of the people that criticized me for drinking too much also criticize me for not drinking now. So I'm like, well, I can't make people happy, so I just want to be myself and just go with what I want to do. So it's been frustrated days where I like message someone, hey, I need your help to understand that I'm going through this at the moment, I need help. And then the reply that I got was like, hey, I hope that you don't rely on me, I have my own issues going on at the moment. I was like, okay, well, fair enough, so I'm gonna just, you know, do me and follow my journey. So it was just me realizing that this is not my true friendship, because it might have been just for fun, you know. True friendship is when you like, you know, you don't, just like in any relationship, it's like unconditional. Yeah. So I had to remove myself from there, and then like I wasn't consciously deciding to remove some people in my life, but it's just happened as a result. Of my habits, I guess.
As I say, it reminds me of a quote that I'd like tagged Marwan in the other week, which was like, cultivate an environment where people's normal behaviours are your desired behaviours. So that's pretty much what you did. Yeah,
and please correct me if I'm wrong. A pattern that I'm seeing throughout your entire story so far is that, you know, you've been chasing the sense of belonging from you coming away from Germany, coming then to New Zealand, Hawke's Bay, then to Auckland, and then even in micro groups like drinking. How did you find your sense of belonging? Because like I can imagine how that is a difficult bloody thing to ask your friends for help, and your friends are like, don't be relying on me, because you know for me, I would be asking myself, well then where do I belong if I thought you were my friend? You know. And because I can relate to that, because I am a Filipino immigrant. It came here when I was 5. I looked different from everyone else. My parents treated me very differently from how my friends were treated by their parents. So I was always trying to look for what was relatable, you know? And for me, a lot of it was trying to be cool. A lot of it was trying to be funny. A lot of it was trying to act like I'm dumb, you know, so I didn't have to be vulnerable and put my hand up. How did you find your sense of belonging, or how did you combat that? Because I'm sure there were fucking times where you would have felt alone.
Yeah, man, it's a super hard. Like, you've experienced it, and everything what you said is pretty much I relate to. Like, coming from a different environment, different culture, and like Russians are not advertised in the movies as good people either. Like, you just want to be like not judged, you know, and people, you know, from Russia is labeled as bad or mafia or whatever, you know. But I just wanted to not have that stereotype anymore, and I just consciously make the decisions where people will not think of Russians as like bad people. I just didn't want to be a part of that stereotype anymore. I wanted to be a positive influence, and I think sense of belonging came when I met the Organic Mechanic boys. Shout out to you guys. And it was just like totally different community where I've never experienced anything like that, where a group of men drinking smoothies, like, you know, sharing their feelings and just being connected to each other and living a healthy lifestyle and providing, you know, like real change in the community, and going out to schools and talking about nutrition and listening to their journey and their story where they've had their issues with health and depression and all of that sort of stuff. So for me it was it was just like, man, I want to be part of that. And I worked with these guys for 4 years, and I took a break, and then I came back because you just feel drawn to that culture, because it's just, you just feel like you can be genuine and you can share whatever you want and no one's going to judge you. And it was just open environment for anything. And I think when you experience that, you're like, you just stretched out to that experience. You just want to experience it again, because it's just like, wow, this is amazing.
That's the dopamine hit. Yeah, and that's the practical step in itself, eh? When you feel lost and you feel like you don't belong, you need to go out and find people who have traits that you wish to have, or traits that you wish to cultivate, like you said, and hit those people up. Get into those meetup groups, hit them up and be like, hey, look, and just tell them the truth. Imagine if you went up, hey, look, this is where I'm coming from, and I admire the traits that you have, and I just want to be able to, you know, learn off you. No one's going to say no to that. No one's going to say no to that. They'll be like, oh, if anything, I'm flattered that you see me in that light. You know, come and join. Come to our campfire and join this conversation. You know, but I think, and I also understand how vulnerable and scary that can be when you already have this insecurity of that you don't have a belonging, that you want to go over there and now ask these people, can we be friends, you know? But it has to start somewhere, and it has to start there.
And it was super warm and inviting when they were, you know, encouraging you to be the part of the community, or, you know, like engage with the community. It's not like you had to be exclusive member and you had to go in there, you know? And it's, I think, going back to the alcohol issue, for me was the epiphany when I realized that no one tried to help me along the way. Not even police or anybody. They didn't ask me whether I had a problem. Like, do you have a problem? Like, can we help you? Like, it's not just for you to figure it out. It's just like, if we think about anything in terms of community, health, or whatever, it always works together, right? So it's not only your responsibility, but it's also the community responsibility to help each other. And if you see someone struggling, like, ask them, you know, do you need any help? You know, some people will say yes, because it's just, you never know. Invite them to something, invite them to a men's group, and you know, for me, it was just like, every time I got into trouble, it would have been, hey, do you have a problem? Do you need help? I might have said no, but then at least someone
opened the space.
Opened the space for it, you know. And I think going to CAS was a perfect opportunity for me to be there and experience that, and share the knowledge and share the experiences, and you know, and there was the epiphany for me. And then Organic Mechanic was the similar experiences, but in a positive way, where now you're living positive lifestyle where people just, you know, encourage you rather than put you down, and it doesn't really matter what you do.
And that's such a great practical step in terms of if you are in that position where you are looking for that sense of belonging. If we were to put ourselves in the perspective of someone comes to us and they're having trouble, right? And you said it yourself, like it's about opening that space, opening that conversation. I think something that a lot of people overlook is that listening is a skill that you must work on. You don't automatically just all of a sudden think you're a good listener, because I don't think that we are. You know, that actually you have to work on actually being an active listener. And that means not responding when someone's talking about their problems, or not trying to solve it, you know? It's being able to read the situation. How do you allow people, when they tell you as a coach, and you yourself too, when friends or clients hit you up and, you know, say like, hey, look, I'm not okay. Like, what is a practical step for you to be there for that person?
Yeah.
What does that look like for you guys?
For me personally, because when I used to work at Lesmos Burma, a few people reached out to me because I shared about my depression journey and my anxiety. A lot of people reached out to me and asked for help, and it was really humbling because then it's like, okay, it's other men that need help. And there were situations where, you know, people talked about suicide and they needed some help, and all you can do is literally just listen and understand, because I've been there. And it's not like, hey man, you just need to do this and that, you know, give them practical solutions. You just gotta first stop and listen and understand this is what they're experiencing. Some people might not even comprehend what people are talking about, that depression and suicide, because they've never experienced it. But listening to different people, and majority of people throughout their lifestyle will feel depressed and anxious. So you can probably relate and even reach out to someone and talk about it, and some people will relate to you because, you know, people feel down sometimes.
Yeah.
People, you know, and some people fall into that feeling a little bit more deeper because of the genetic predisposition to depression. Apparently that's a thing. Some people are more predisposed to depression rather than, you know, another person that's next to you. But yeah, just listening and understanding that having that space, safe space for people, is a good thing to have, and not saying, oh yeah, I've got a solution for you, let's do this, you know.
Sometimes that is the most counterintuitive thing to do. You know. What about you, Sinead? How do you do it? Because you're a physiotherapist, I'm sure people, you know.
Yeah, I think
and you have to open space.
Opening this space, I think, yourself, so that people, so they do feel that they can open up as well. And like you said, just sort of meeting people where they are. I think initially when people are opening up, they are just wanting to be listened and be heard. And so often in them, I guess, using you as a soundboard pretty much, if they're thoughts that they've only ever thought themselves and they've never spoken them out loud, I think by them speaking them out loud allows them to maybe be more aware, a bit conscious of things that they don't realise they've always been telling themselves. And yeah, but in doing so, you've just got to sort of sit back and listen, sort of. And I think in doing that, that silence is key for them sometimes to sort of connect the dot of things that they've been telling themselves or whatnot, and then go from there. But yeah, I think you said, like I said initially, it's just being an active listener versus because I think that if you're not listening, if the whole time they're saying something, you think, oh, I could tell them about this book, or I could tell them about this, or I'm going to suggest this, you're not listening then, because you're too busy thinking of solutions to be for their problems versus just...
And that means then your thoughts is about you now, because you're trying to be the solutioner. You know, you're trying to be the problem solver rather than being the listener. For me, when it comes to active listening, look at them straight in the eye. Your eyes will speak 1,000 words, you know, and be aware whether you're like this or like you calm in the eyes, and breathe into your stomach, and then observe your thoughts because those thoughts will come up. Oh, I can tell them this, or they can read this book. Just observe those thoughts and be like, okay, I'm going to come back to this person and connect with the eyes, connect with your breathing, and that way you'll know. Shit, I went to 1,000 different areas while Serge was talking to me. I'm not a good listener. You know what I mean? I think that's a good start. It's a good start because it is so especially important, especially in this like pandemic of mental health at the moment that people are talking about. It's because people don't know how to listen, man. And people are out here saying, men need to talk, or people should talk about their mental health. Bro, we've never had that in the history of mankind because no one knows how to actually really listen. You know, that's why there's a problem, because we don't know where to put this energy, I believe anyway. You know, I think everyone has a mental health state. Everyone has it. It's not new. It's what is now being brought up is that, people don't know how to open space for other people. And that is where we're going wrong. We've got so much energy, this built up energy, nowhere to put it. Nowhere to put it.
Yeah, that's correct to put it. Active listening.
It's not that there's no, I don't know, I'll go as far as saying like, yes, there is mental health issues, but there is so much more lack of listening skills, I think.
I sometimes catch myself actually doing that as well. Like I'm like, oh, I need to listen, like, and draw myself back into myself and presence and just listen more, because I can be just like, oh yeah, you need to do this, and I was like, oh, hold on a second.
Yeah.
What am I doing here? Yeah, I can fall into that trap sometimes.
Yeah, you're 100% right. How do you bring yourself back into the present? Because it's normal for us to.
Yeah.
That's what the mind does, right?
Yeah.
We strategize ahead, and it's so bloody normal.
Yeah.
But also, there's also that that trap where we're not able to bring ourselves back because one, we either don't have that awareness or don't have the tools. So if we were talking to someone who didn't have that, how do you bring yourself into the present moment?
Yeah, there's multiple things. I think for me personally, a great way to go back towards like who am I and what do I need to do is just taking myself out of everything and just isolate myself. So I just, because I'm introverted by nature, I've read a book called Quiet by Susan Cain, and I found out that I'm more introverted than extroverted. And you're not like fully introverted, like, because you will have some extroverted traits, but I'm more introverted as opposed to extroverted because I think you're more extroverted.
Yeah. Really?
So I can see like us being the opposite. So I need to get myself out of social interactions completely and just like disappear. And that's how I recharge. And meditation is probably the best way because you just like put the earplugs in, close your eyes, you just gone from this universe, and then you just basically just disappear and recharge because we are just overstimulated, over energized, and we just need to do this. We need to quiet our minds, and it's hard for many people, but for me it worked tremendously. And sometimes when I get busy, I'm like, okay, I need to go back to meditation. Even just for 10 minutes, I just go back into the car in the car park and just either nap or meditate, focus on breathing.
Yeah.
Naps.
It's just works amazing. And when you do the meditation for a very long time, I bring a perfect analogy for meditation. If you've never experienced it, it's like having a cheat code in the game. You sometimes surprise yourself with the superpowers you have. You're like, oh, how did I manage to talk to someone like this? I've never actually, like, you just impress yourself sometimes. You're like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought because I was listening to a podcast on the weekend and it said the definition of meditation is to become familiar. And when you become more familiar of your patterns, of your triggers, then you're able to build upon them. But if you're running on, just pure subconscious, not aware of these patterns, you're not familiar with anything. You think everything is what it is, or you're not.
And that you're not in control of your life and what's going on. It's just realising you have complete control. Sorry.
No, you go.
Do you find those, I guess, sort of habits or rituals for you, are they sort of pretty routine, or do you have to have sort of like reminders or something to keep you on top of those things that do, I guess, help recharge and reset you and keep your mind clear?
Recently, I've discovered the practice of ritual boards, and it's a guy which I managed to stumble upon during the lockdown. His name is Dr. Paul Taylor. He's a neuroscientist, and he has in the kitchen he has a ritual board where he writes, and you can put anything on that ritual board, whatever your goal is. So he has like the nutritional things, the self-development things, the family things. And you can just tick it as you go during the week, and you can just like look at it and see it every day in front of you, and just being able to tick it off as you go, because you like some days you're like, oh, I haven't done this, I have to get back into it the next day. And I think having the sometimes less busier days, then you can definitely know that you can squeeze in like a meditation. There's no excuse for it. So sometimes Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays is the days where I literally like, okay, I have to force myself into those modes. And having the ritual board as well have been amazing just since the lockdown, just ticking things off, whether it's probiotics, 7 or 8 hours sleep, or whatever that may be, and just
so they're
ticking
things
it off.
that you write down, things that you feel fill your cup, or things that help keep you at your best.
Totally. And being able to go back into your routine, because sometimes you fall out of it and you just find that first step becomes harder for you to go back, because it's like you no longer have the same effect as you had if you
when you
were
first
to
did
do
it.
it consistently,
Yeah.
systematically.
It would be such a
Yeah.
visual reminder as well. Like if you got to the end of the week and you just think, "Fuck, this has been such a long week. I'm feeling
Yeah.
so stressed," and
Yeah.
and then you look at your thing, you're like, "Oh, I've not ticked anything. I haven't got my 8 hours sleep this week. I
Yeah.
haven't read, or I haven't gone for a walk, or."
Yeah.
Versus a week where you're like, "This has been a good week.
Mm.
It's been busy, but I've felt good," and it's
Yeah.
because you've still ticked off.
Yeah, there's a sense of gratefulness with that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not understanding how far you've come, but also, getting it outside of you objectively. Because never rely on your memory.
Yeah.
Never rely on your memory, eh? There's been so many times where I've been like, oh, I'll remember that. And like, fuck, something will come up and I'm like, oh God, that's due now.
Yeah, you just forget, especially when you have too many things going on. You need to remind yourself.
Mm.
Yeah.
And is that playing for you as well with, we touched on the other week, like setting personal boundaries and, going about navigating them, like having sort of strong boundaries and sort of sticking with them.
Yeah, what are your personal boundaries? Because you manage a team of how many? 50, 40?
54 trainers and 6 club support.
Yeah,
Plus
you've got
your clients plus your training. Plus
your relationship.
Yeah. I think, personally for me, I think I have to actually like isolate myself sometimes and say that to people. It's not anything about you. It's just me. I need some time off. Like I need to go back and have some time off. Actually, 3 weeks ago I had a breakdown. So I had a mental breakdown. After this year, and I realized this is just another perfect sign that I need to slow down.
Yeah.
And it was real. I was just like, okay, here we are. We're back into this mode where we have to like set boundaries. And sometimes you have to experience them again for you to go back and relive what you need to go back and do for yourself to like better yourself. And
So what does that look like? Does that mean like every Sunday you do it? It's blocked out in your calendar, or is it 30 minutes of meditation? Like what is that?
for me, I think like weekends and also during the weekdays where you have the opportunity, find the time, even if it's 15 minutes, even if it's 5 minutes. And a good thing for me was to transition. So each time you do something, you have a transition period. So right now we walked into this room, you have a transition period. Like we'll finish this podcast, I'll go back to work, you'll go back to whatever that you need to do. You have a transition period. Each time you do something, you have a transition period. Each time you have an opportunity to reconnect and understand, you have an opportunity to ask yourself some questions. What can I do in the next slide or next episode or next, so that you can be better.
So you're always rechecking. You're always reviewing, reflecting.
Like connect to your breathing is the basic thing. Like
hard. That is so important because I'm sure you can relate too. And for me, if I'm smashing out like 4 clients in a row, I tell this to everyone. I feel like I just went through a time portal. Just did 4 people, and I'm like, if I wasn't taking notes, I wouldn't have even remembered. That's why I must carry my notebook when I've got clients. I'm just like, whoa. After my 4th one, I'm like, where have I been? Shit. I genuinely that 4 hours just flew by, and the coffee has worn out.
Totally. Yeah, and I think like having these transition periods where, and even I set the timer, so I have a reminder at 10 a.m. Each time there's a reminder on my phone which comes up and it says 3 questions. What can trip me up? What can I do to make things great? Or who can I like say thank you or have like appreciation or give someone something, and if I walk through a door, like a physical door, that's a transition period. So what can I find good like in the room?
Interesting.
Rather than
interesting,
find
very
fault,
interesting.
And like being able to just have that transition period to like, okay, whatever happened now does not affect your present in this room. You can make the difference,
Interesting.
And that reminder on the phone, sometimes you like reset, because it's now not about opening the phone and actually reading it, because you know what's in that reminder. It's more of a subconscious trigger. It's like, okay, I know what's on that reminder. I need to do this.
Yeah.
Breathe and then like go back into that mode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's such huge utility in the reflection, for one, because you got to know where you're going at all times. Know where you're going, why you're doing it. You know, otherwise, fuck. That's just another mode of autopilot. Yeah. And from what I'm hearing, I want to try this. You know, this transitional period. It's like it breeds a whole. I feel that like. I was doing it while you were talking. I wasn't listening. Sorry. Sorry.
It's all good.
But I was like, fuck, I'm feeling gratitude. I'm feeling gratitude every time I walk through a door. You know?
Yeah, it's like a portal. You like go through a portal and then you're in another like period of your time. You know, it's like going through a photograph album. You know, you flick it through and then now you're watching something else, and so you have this period where you don't have to go straight away and pick that book and start reading it. You have a couple of minutes to just, you know, like slow down and don't rush into that next thing. Ask yourself a question, you know. What can I do better in this interaction? I just had a mental breakdown. What's next? You know, like, okay, I need to actually slow down. I pick my bags and I walk out of that work and go back home. And, you know, you need that transition period.
I find with transition periods, I've been more mindful as of late. Like I'm the same if I'm like catching the bus somewhere or walking from here to the gym. I think sweet, that's 15 minutes to like check my emails or check this or reply to those messages or and get stuff done. Whereas now I'm trying to like, this is 15 minutes to just like I said, be with your thoughts, or just like I said, take in your surroundings and sort of be present or reflect on certain things or think about what's coming up. Versus just again being your phone, and then you're missing that transition period, so you're not getting that chance to I guess reflect. You are then just going from one thing to the next without processing stuff.
Because you started journaling recently, right?
Yeah, well, I've done it in compartments, so I find like with rituals like that, for me, it teaches, like, for example, gratitude and self-reflection, and then you do it enough times that your brain keeps doing it and doing it, and then you don't need that tool anymore because it's now becoming more automatic. But as you know, life gets fucking crazy. You know, more challenges come, you know, and they come bigger. And then there are times when I'm like, okay, cool, I now need to get my journal back because I need to pick up that tool again. So, but I've started journaling again. It's so powerful. I trip the hell out, man, when I read like an old journal from last week and I'm like, that's what I was thinking. That's so cringe. Or like, you know, you just appreciate like, fuck my own. And like, honestly, I've been brought to tears many a times to been like, man, you've come so far. You've come so far.
I find that I've got like a gratitude journal app thing on my phone that I do every night. And I've really been doing that probably since maybe like mid this year, and even the same when I like go back and I look at what I was grateful for, then I just like again compared to now when some days it was just the bare minimum, whereas these days I could write like a novel of what I'm grateful for in a day, and it can just be the list of things. It's like, oh, it wasn't raining when I had to go to walk to the gym, or this happened, or interaction with someone, or I got to bump into so and so at the gym, and
for me, even with journaling, I've gone and to the point where I started compartmentalizing, like, okay, what made me happy, what didn't, and then there's like 10 different slots, like spirituality, career, friendship, like these 10 priorities of life. And I started to tally every single day how many times that made me happy or unhappy, and then at the end of the week, like, fuck, I used to do it at PR on Sunday and just read over it, and I was like, cool, friendships made me unhappy 4 times this week, career made me happy 10 times. You're like, cool, so there's something there. So now I know these need more attention. This one is being maintained, and this one, it's all good, you know?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of change in you. Like, I've known you for so long now. Like, I've seen like positive change in you so much.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I appreciate that. Like many people, self-development for me came from a place of pain. You know, and I was very scared to go back to that, because you've seen me when I first ever came 5 years ago. You've seen me at my darkest and lowest during work, and
but the thing is, you always ask
outside.
questions. Like what I've noticed, you always ask questions, and that's the most profound thing that you can do is ask questions, because you might ask the question now, you might not get the answer, but then you might still think about it. You might see something that might trigger that response and give you the answer, and you're like, oh, okay, might be the solution, or you know, it's just simple. It's real simple. Even if you ask a question from someone, or if you ask yourself a question, how can I find a solution for this?
Yeah, I love that. And I thought for me, what comes naturally for me is curiosity. And if there's anyone out there listening right now that wants to better their life in any shape, form, or way, whether it's financial, mental, emotional, whatever, start with curiosity. Start with a question. And then that will lead you into a hole and then a light, you know? It's difficult because, as you guys know, self-development is extremely uncomfortable, but very fulfilling and rewarding thing to do for yourself.
Yeah,
you know?
totally. I agree with that.
As we start to wrap up, did you have any more questions?
I mean, probably could go all day long, but I think we kind of...
Something I like to ask is like, as we wrap up now, like if you could talk to Serge sitting over on that seat over there, you know, the Serge right before, in the depth of that rock bottom, what would you tell him now?
Yeah, I think just experience things. Like, you know, I wouldn't really go back and say to him, like, you know, do this or do that. Like, I think because where I am today is because of the bad experience that I've had. Like, obviously you don't need to make these mistakes. You can have positive life without making mistakes. But for me, like, I would say just, you know, just tell Serge that everything's gonna be okay. And whatever you experience is like, it's preparing you for the next thing. And like, yeah, I wouldn't make it any other way, because of the things that I've done and made me understand and realize this is what I don't need to do, and experience it. Whereas for certain people, you know, it might be just being good and having good habits and have the systems in place. But for me, I would just say, like, just experience things and learn as you go, because it prepares you for something greater, you know.
Awesome. We just want to thank you for your vulnerability and your time, bro. I love hearing stories, and I love like these, you know, there are Rocky Balboas everywhere, you know, everyone's got one.
Everyone has a journey, and everyone has a story.
So thank you for your vulnerability, your time, the space that you've given us, and just sharing this knowledge with not only us but also our listeners.
Epic. Yeah, that wraps it up, I guess.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. You want to let them know about the whole feedback thing? Yeah, the feedback, keep it coming. It's been awesome to hear everybody's thoughts and letting us know what you do, love, or and things that have been relatable for you. So definitely keep that coming. Yeah, it's the feedback that helps us grow, and hopefully we can get more amazing people like Serge to jump on and give you guys value as well. Peace. See you later.
That's a vibe. She wanna vibe. That's a vibe.